Hello, everybody. I'm Seth Jones, editor-in-chief of Golfdom Magazine. It's my great pleasure to be joined by one of Anuvia's legends. Today, I'm being joined by Matt Shaffer. He is Director of Golf Course Operations Emeritus at Merion Golf Club. Matt, it's great to see you. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
So
it's 95. It could be 90 degrees today and high humidity, and I don't have to worry about grass dying.
That's right.
That's terrible, isn't it?
Now, are you down in Florida?
No, we're up in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So catch me up. What's how you been and what are you up to these days?
Well, I had started a little company called Minimalistic Agronomic Techniques, or MAT by Matt. And I was working with Anuvia and BioBoost as a brand ambassador for them. But then COVID hit, kind of put the kibosh to our traveling. And but next week is my first trip out on the road with Anuvia after being at the house for 5 months. So I'm both excited and nervous, and it's all good.
Good, good, good. Yeah, it's been a strange year. It's good to see you. Good to see things are going well. And we want to talk about the Anuvia's Legends package is been real exciting for us to be involved with at Golfdom, because it gives me a chance to talk to guys like you. And I just want to do kind of a retrospective. So I got some softball questions for you here. Of course, I know you never mind talking about Penn State. Can we go back to mid '70s? How did your time at Penn State set you off on the right foot for your career?
Oh, it's funny. Well, Dr. Deutsch, anybody that knew him, he had no gray matter. He was all about being up front. So he was pretty adamant about where we would work. And so he had set me all up to go out to work for a famous golf course superintendent named Bill Burdick out at Canterbury, because they were hosting the PGA. But I had other ideas. I went to the Poconos because I wanted to party and have a good time. So, he was right and I was wrong. And it took a while, a couple years after graduation, for the light to come on and get my career back on track. But it was fun.
Good, good.
But I got a great education there, made a lot of great contacts with my classmates who I have, stayed in contact with. So that's good.
Okay. When I say the country club, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Great golf course. Great William Flynn golf course. Man, unbelievable architecture. Good members, great golf professional. He and I were best friends. Just a wonderful time.
Good.
Long winter. That would be the thing that comes to mind. That's what got, I just couldn't, we were there 8 years. I just couldn't take any more snow.
Yep, good. And from there you go to Merion. You spent a long time at Merion. What are some career highlights from your time there?
I think, we built a great mentor program. So I had turned out probably 16 really good superintendents out of there, maybe 18. And then probably well over 100 assistants we placed, and probably 5 mechanics. And then we hosted the amateur, the Walker Cup, and the Open. And bringing the Open to Merion, I had a little bit to do with that. I think by, producing conditions they didn't think would defend par. So I can take about 15% of the credit. There's 4 members there that just worked tirelessly to get back into the good graces of the USGA in regards to a golf course under 7,000 yards hosting an Open.
That it's hard to believe that was. I was looking back now. That's been 7 years ago. Does it feel like it was that long ago?
Yes. That was a tough tournament. A lot of rain. A lot of pressure. I knew if in the back of my mind, I knew if it was 10 over or 10 under or more, it would really probably jeopardize. They'd be guilty by association of their old classic courses like Brookline. The country club at Brookline's going to host Open. Who knows? They may not have got it, because if Merion took it on the chin real bad, it wouldn't have boded well for them either. And then also, I wanted to make sure we had a great tournament so they would go back to Merion at some point and have the Open,
Yeah, yeah. I want to show you what hat I was wearing for the 4th of July weekend. This is, I don't know if it's, I got this side. I got
Texas
my.
A&M, man, that's a classic.
That's right. It's one of my favorites. You know, it's a great lid. And that was a good time coming out and visiting you guys, and you know, just talking to you. You know, we did a cover story on your course and talked to you, and then since then we've also gone back and we talked to you, to some of the people who you've mentored, because you've obviously had such an impact on some lives in the industry. And I pulled this out of the magazine. Have you talked to Pat Mayer in a while? Where's Pat at these days?
He's at Parkersburg Country Club, and you know, it's weird. I have not seen Pat since he went there, but this trip that I'm taking is going to take me to Lexington, Kentucky. So on the way home next Thursday, I'm going to be with Pat. So
Okay,
it'll be good to see him. I haven't seen him for a while.
Good. Well, tell him I said hi. But
I will.
last time I talked to Pat, it was over the phone, and it said, this is a quote he told me. He said that your ability to build a supporting cast was phenomenal. Matt's able to find the right people who could spend a ridiculous amount of hours with each other. How, and I believe
That's true.
that. I believe that. So what's your, how do you, is it by necessity? You know, the other thing they kind of said was that, you know, when you were at Merion, it wasn't about the person, it was about the club. You know, you really stressed to these guys that there was a historic course that they were there to take care of. And, but then just to get these guys to put in that time, what was your philosophies on getting guys to be able to get focused on the job at hand?
Well, you know, misery likes company. So they would, you know, it was, if everybody worked equally as hard, it's all of a sudden it became easy. And then it was all about, you know, challenging. They challenged each other. Now, I told them, look, you know, you're going to have lots of hard days. The business is difficult, but in the end, you're going to be rewarded handsomely. You'll be your own boss at a prestigious club, making more than the national average salary. And so it's you know, there's an end to the means. And so they did that. And they had seen other people move ahead and get great jobs that would, you know, when they'd have a difficult time, I said, I encouraged them, reach out to those guys, you know, and they'll tell you it's worth it. You know, there's nothing in life comes without a major sacrifice, and this is your sacrifice time. So they bought in. And we worked as a team. You know, it was never about me or them. We never said I or you. It was always we and us. You know, so and I let them lead. You know, they made some mistakes, but in the major scope of things, their mistakes are so minute and their contributions are so mega that it was, you know, people feel good when they know they're a part of something instead of just a supporting cast.
I thought that was interesting when the system that you had out there where you would have different guys that whoever was, the way it was told to me was the quarterback position would rotate. Every week somebody else was the quarterback, and the quarterback from last week might be the water boy this week. Was that something that you picked up along the way, or was that just a way to kind of get the guys an opportunity to see how they did in the leadership role?
Actually, they actually, when I years ago, you know, I mean, I always wanted time off. I'm a big time fisherman and hunter, and so, you know, time off to me is a big deal. So I knew it was a big deal to them too. So I had perfected a system where everybody got every other weekend off. But still, you know, when you're working 12, 14-hour days for 12 days straight, it's a grind. So, you know, they actually built the system. You know, I recently wrote a little article about leading through the generations, you know, and the thing is, generations aren't going to change for you. You got to change with the generation. And so this current generation likes time off, and I think that's a big deal. You know, my generation was all about grinding hard, and then at 65, you tried to squeeze a ton of life into a bunch of years when your bones were all busted up and you didn't have any energy. You know, they want to live life now, and I got to tell you, you know, there's no argument against that. So what we would do is we'd just sit down and say, okay, guys, here are the man hours. The man hours aren't going to change. The members' expectations aren't going to change. So let's develop a system that allows everybody to have time off and we get the work done. So actually, in the reality of things, they're the ones that perfected the system. People like Jamie and Aaron and Tux, Scott Bortner and Pat, all those guys, they say, hey, I got a good idea. So, okay, let's implement it. And they said, whoa, wait a minute. And I said, well, no, look, we'll run it. We'll run an experiment on it for 10 days. If it works good, we'll adopt it. If not, we'll chalk it up to one thing we don't have to try again, you know?
Good. Fantastic. Yeah, I always thought that was neat because that also set you guys up. You could tell that the guys knew that they had your trust, and that was fun to watch because they knew you a lot better than I did, but I didn't know if there was an intimidation factor there where they wouldn't want to fail, but I think they knew that that it was okay to fail once in a while.
Oh yeah, I told them, show me a guy that never makes a mistake, and I'll show you a guy that never does anything.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew. I said, dig in. Look, nobody's going to make fun of your mistakes because when you look around in this entire room, we've all made a ton of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, be yourself. Give me your best creative juices. Otherwise, there's no real logic for you being here. I can find hard workers. I need smart guys.
Cool. Matt, let's geek out about some of the turf stuff that you did, and you can take any which direction you want to. But I know that from your time in the industry, you've done things that were outside of the box that maybe you can look back on and say, well, that worked, that didn't, or you can even say now everybody does it this way because we were looking at something like this, and it turns out that when we started rolling approaches or you name it. But I wonder if there's one thing or a couple of things in your mind that agronomically that stand out to you that maybe when you were a young guy in the industry you did it one way, and then now in the back end you do it totally different.
Well, definitely, I always hated the water. I was a real stingy waterer. So I would teach those guys how to water. Just can't learn it. You have to be mentored. Paul Latchall Sr. and I kind of perfected this technique together at Augusta because we were two Yankees in the South that didn't have a clue. I know he wouldn't appreciate me saying that, but that's the absolute truth. So we had to figure out how to water those greens, and less was more. And then after I left Augusta, I kept perfecting that method. And so, I think in the end, if you got my guys together and you say, okay, what makes Shaffer different in agronomics, it would be he doesn't water, he doesn't spray, and he's a rolling maniac. So, the rolling thing, that really got really cranking in Cleveland because Dr. Dannenberger sent a young grad student up there, and Mike McGuan, who I ultimately made an assistant. And he went back and told Dr. Dannenberger, that guy never sprays. He never gets any disease on his greens. Well, of course, Carl, he right away gets on the phone. He said, what's the deal? And I said, well, I think it's a combination of good fertility, great water management, and rolling. Now, nobody was really rolling as much then as they are now. And he said, what do you mean rolling? And I said, well, we roll greens every day that they're not at field capacity, and they're smooth and fast. And I said, the other thing, Carl, is I quit top dressing greens in the summertime because it just compromised my quality of cut and the playing conditions, and I just roll instead to manage thatch and smoothness. And then a couple of my guys said, hey, it's funny, right where we stop rolling, we get dollar spot. So then we started rolling approaches. And then I left and I went to Merion. This is crazy. This was an observation by me, but I didn't really understand at the time. Merion's landlocked, so when we were getting ready for the open, I didn't want anybody running through the rough. So I told the rollers when they would leave one green, just roll up the center of the next fairway. Make sure you're on the light side going up towards the green. And then do that for 4 holes and then go grab your truckster and pick up your roller. So I'm out rolling one morning and there's no dollar spot in the middle of the fairways. But there's dollar spot on each side. And I said right away, I called Aaron McCurdy and I said, I know why we don't get dollar spot. It's our spray rate's not right. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, up the middle where they overlap, the boom, we don't have any dollar spot. He said, that's not it. So then he came out and he said, that's where the rollers are going.
Huh.
So that's when we built a roller. We built one in-house. And the problem was it was really hard to run with a tractor. I was the only guy who was ever raised on a farm there. So I didn't have any trouble running it, but everybody else really struggled to run it. so then I went to Toro and I went to John Deere, and they weren't interested at the time. So I got my good old buddy Sal and talked him into building one. And it wasn't at all like I thought it was going to be. It was 1,000% better. And then we started rolling fairways. And now I think a lot more people roll fairways. There's other options. There's other companies that are trying to build something similar, and they work pretty good. But I think Sal's is still the best. And so anyways, the long story short is our thatch started to break down. And oh, by the way, we didn't spray very much. In fact, we went 240 days at Merion Golf Club, the #7 golf course in the United States, without spraying fairways. That's unheard of.
Yeah. That's good.
So anyways, unfortunately, that was a long answer to a simple question, but I would say, rolling, water management, and being really, really a stingy sprayer is probably, my trademarks. And then producing good young men that had a nice life and are outstanding superintendents.
Good. No, that's a great answer. I appreciate those answers from you. You're a storyteller, Matt. That's good. That's good. Good for a guy like me in my profession. Trust me. So, you mentioned Latshaw, Carl. I'm just wondering, there's so many guys that you've interacted with through your years, and either in the industry or in the game itself or beyond it. Who are some of the people who stand out to you in your mind as just exceptional people who you came across through your job?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Well, it's funny, there's all sorts of people that come. I mean, my dad was a phenomenal person, and I know that's probably an unusual person to bring up as you're influential, but he was a taskmaster, man. I mean, he taught us to work, and and to this day, my brother and I laugh because we can't go a single day without doing something positive. Mm-hmm. And he was a realist. He was a little bit philosophical, so he really kind of created my curiosity and my work ethic. Then obviously Dr. Deutsch, he was the foundation for my education. There's a lot of good professors there, but he was the hammer. And then, man, I've met some great, Carl, Frank Rossi. I mean, these are characters. I met a lot of great people, but there's people that are just, just have tremendous charisma. Mm-hmm. And then, architects, Pete Dye, anybody that ever had, I'll never forget. He is such a character. I mean, getting to spend any time with Pete's just a privilege. So we're out at Carmel going over his golf course out there, and I said, shaped it. And Pete said, no, I shaped it. I said, what'd you use? He said, a bulldozer. I said, hell, it must have been your first day on that machine. He sat there and roared, he just loved that stuff. And then I told Pete one day that I was going to buy a golf course. He just worked me over on the telephone. It was priceless. I wish I could have recorded it. But, so I was lucky. I met people like Tom Fazio and Tom Marzoff. Got to work with him a lot. I don't know, just so many wonderful people, that you get to meet and interact with, particularly at Merion. There's so many great people there, Ernie Elves, and that are open and kind and generous with their time. It's awesome.
That's cool. What led you to now in this stage? You've got your company, and then you mentioned early on, you were working with Anuvia. You're going to start traveling for them again. But what motivated you to take on a role with Anuvia?
It's funny. It was kind of by chance. So I always wanted to start a company, and then I've always been an apprehensive traveler. So I wanted to conquer that fear before I died. I don't like being afraid of anything. So I thought, well, the best way to do that's just to go ahead and develop a company where you got to travel. And I knew I didn't want to consult. I'll never forget my dad told me one time, he said, there's two types of consultants. There's good ones and there's successful ones. I said, all right, I'll bite. So he said, the good ones tell you what you need to hear, and the successful ones tell you what you want to hear. And he said, you'll be a good struggling one. So on that, for that reason, I'm awful outspoken, and I do things so inherently different than the rest of the industry that I thought I probably really wouldn't develop a good following doing that. So the first person in was actually Jody Fitzpatrick, who is the marketing director for a company called BioBoost. And she came up and took me to lunch, and she said, what are you going to do when you retire? And I said, I'm not sure. I'm going to start a little company. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with it. And she said, well, we have this product, we think you'd be a good brand ambassador. And so we talked it through. And then I told John Fowler about that, and he said, geez, that would really be good if we do something like that with Anuvia. And I said, well, you know what, though? I got to really believe in the product. He said, well, why don't you come down and meet our president and the gentleman that's my boss, Hugh McGilfrey, and learn about our product. Well, once I heard the story of their product, met their team, I was like, wow, game on. I'd love to be a part of this. So they made me a nice offer, and they have been just phenomenal to work with ever since. And I think I'm going to take on another one, a third client, but I'm not at liberty. There's a company that's going to get in the turf business, so I think I might help them out a little bit here in the future. But I got to be careful. My wife will pull a 380 on me and that's not a 380-degree turn. That's a caliber 380. If I get too busy.
Good. Well, I appreciate the forewarning. We'll be interested to see what maybe comes up next. So.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Good. How much fishing you getting in?
Well, since they're back up north, we didn't bring a boat home, which might have been a mistake, particularly this year. But we had a bad experience bringing our boat home the last time. I was on 95 in the middle lane doing 75 miles an hour, and the axle broke on the boat trailer.
Oh.
So that was a hair-raising experience. But you get one thing about it, it scatters traffic. So anyways, and that's a great story I'll tell you over a couple beers how we got that fixed. So, but anyways, so we didn't bring a boat home this trip, but down in Florida, I would say this past year, it was kind of bizarre. We didn't fish as much as we normally did. I'm not quite sure why. It was pretty doggone hot. And then Okeechobee's got an issue. The lake water got too low. So you couldn't get out there and fish. You ground your boat. It was a little dangerous. So
okay. Yeah,
that definitely hurt fishing. And then the bite was off. It just wasn't as good as it normally is. I don't know what was up, but it wasn't quite as good as normal.
Interesting. Okay. Well, hopefully that changes soon. Get back out there some.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, Matt. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today.
Great. It's always an honor to speak with you.
Well, thank you, Matt. I'm going to sign us off right here, but stay on. I'll catch up with you. I just want to say goodbye to our viewers. Everybody, Matt Shaffer. He's been around the business for a long time, and he's one of Anuvia's legends, and it's always a pleasure to talk to him and learn from the man here. I'm Seth Jones with Golfton Magazine. Thanks for checking in with us here on Golfton TV.